You keep getting hurt because you expect people to think like you. You expect loyalty from selfish people. You expect honesty from people who survive through manipulation. And every time they disappoint you, you suffer twice, once from what they did, and once from the expectations you created in your own mind. The Stoics understood something most people never learn. Your peace disappears the moment you hand your emotional control to another person. If someone can ruin your entire day with a text message, an insult, rejection, silence, betrayal, or disrespect, then your emotions are no longer yours. They belong to whoever triggers you. And this is exactly why so many people stay emotionally weak. They react to everything. They argue with fools. They chase validation. They beg for explanations. They become angry over opinions. They become depressed over rejection. They lose sleep over people who don't even think about them. But Stoicism teaches a different path. A path where your mind becomes untouchable. A path where people lose the power to emotionally control you. A path where pain may still exist, but suffering becomes optional. And once you master this, nobody will ever truly hurt you again. Because the truth is this. People can insult you. People can betray you. People can leave you. People can misunderstand you. People can laugh at you. People can reject you. But none of those things have power until your mind accepts them as damage. This is why Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That single principle can transform your entire life. Most people spend their lives trying to control others. Trying to make people respect them. Trying to make everyone understand them. Trying to force loyalty. Trying to stop criticism. Trying to avoid rejection. But the Stoics knew that controlling people is impossible. You cannot control opinions. You cannot control betrayal. You cannot control disrespect. You cannot control human nature. But you can control your response. And your response determines whether you suffer or rise above it. Think about how many times someone ruined your peace simply because you reacted emotionally. One rude comment destroyed your confidence. One rejection made you question your worth. One betrayal made you lose trust in everyone. One failure made you feel like giving up. The event itself was temporary. But your interpretation turned it into prolonged suffering. This is why Stoicism focuses heavily on perception. Because two people can experience the exact same situation and respond completely differently. One person gets rejected and becomes depressed. Another person gets rejected and becomes stronger. One person gets criticized and becomes angry. Another person learns from it and moves forward. One person loses everything and collapses. Another rebuilds with greater wisdom. The difference is mindset. The difference is emotional discipline. The difference is mastery over the mind. And emotional mastery begins the moment you stop taking everything personally. Most insults are projections. Most disrespect comes from insecurity. Most criticism comes from wounded people. Most manipulation comes from weak minds trying to gain control. People often attack others because they cannot control themselves. A jealous person hates your growth. An insecure person fears your confidence. A bitter person resents your peace. A manipulative person hates boundaries. So when people mistreat you, their behavior often reveals more about them than about you. But emotionally reactive people absorb everything. They carry insults for years. They replay conversations in their minds. They seek revenge. They obsess over what others think. And slowly, they become prisoners of external validation. The Stoic becomes free the moment he realizes this. Other people's opinions are not facts. Someone calling you worthless does not make you worthless. Someone misunderstanding you does not change who you are. Someone rejecting you does not reduce your value. The sun still shines even when blind people cannot see it. And your worth remains intact even when others fail to recognize it. This is why emotionally strong people move differently. They don't waste energy explaining themselves to everyone. They don't chase approval. They don't panic when criticized. They don't collapse under rejection. Because they understand something powerful. The opinion of another human being cannot define reality. And once you truly understand this, emotional freedom begins. Now this does not mean becoming cold-hearted. Stoicism is not emotional suppression. It is emotional control. There is a difference. Weak people are controlled by emotions. Strong people observe emotions without becoming slaves to them. You can feel anger without becoming destructive. You can feel sadness without losing yourself. You can feel pain without becoming bitter. The Stoics never taught emotional numbness. They taught emotional mastery. And emotional mastery requires self-awareness. Most people react instantly. They never pause. They never examine their thoughts. They never question their emotions. Someone insults them and they explode. Someone ignores them and they panic. Someone disagrees with them and they become defensive. But the Stoic pauses before reacting. Because not every situation deserves your emotional energy. One of the greatest signs of maturity is learning what to ignore. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every disrespect deserves revenge. Not every opinion deserves attention. Sometimes silence is power. Sometimes walking away is strength. Sometimes protecting your peace is more important than proving a point. People often destroy themselves trying to win arguments that never mattered. The Stoic understands that inner peace is too valuable to sacrifice for ego battles. And this becomes even more important in relationships. One of the biggest reasons people suffer emotionally is attachment. They become emotionally dependent on others for happiness. They need constant validation, constant reassurance, constant attention, constant approval. And when those things disappear, they collapse emotionally. But Stoicism teaches self-sufficiency. Not isolation. Not emotional coldness. But emotional independence. A Stoic can love deeply without becoming emotionally enslaved. That is true strength. Because attachment says, I cannot live without you. But wisdom says, I value you, but I remain whole within myself. Many people confuse love with emotional dependency. Real love does not destroy your peace. Real love does not require losing yourself. Real love does not force you to beg for basic respect. If someone constantly manipulates your emotions, disrespects your boundaries, drains your energy, and destroys your peace, then your attachment to them is not love. It is emotional addiction. And emotional addiction creates suffering. The Stoics believed peace comes from within, not from people. Because people change. People leave. People disappoint. People betray expectations. But if your peace depends entirely on others, your emotional stability becomes fragile. And fragile minds suffer constantly. This is why one of the most powerful Stoic practices is negative visualization. Instead of pretending bad things will never happen, the Stoics prepared mentally for reality. They understood that loss is part of life. Rejection is part of life. Criticism is part of life. Pain is part of life. Preparation reduces shock. When you stop expecting life to be perfect, you stop collapsing every time difficulty appears. Most people suffer because reality violates their fantasies. They expect permanent happiness, permanent loyalty, permanent comfort, permanent success. But life changes constantly. And emotionally resilient people adapt instead of complaining. A tree that refuses to bend during storms eventually breaks. The Stoic bends without losing strength. This mindset creates unbelievable emotional power. Imagine reaching a point where insults no longer shake your confidence. Rejection no longer destroys your self-worth. Criticism no longer controls your emotions. Betrayal no longer turns you bitter. Imagine becoming so mentally disciplined that your peace remains stable regardless of external chaos. That is real power. Not domination over others. Domination over yourself. Most people spend years trying to become physically strong while remaining emotionally weak. But emotional weakness ruins lives. An emotionally weak person makes decisions from anger, destroys relationships from insecurity, loses opportunities from fear, seeks revenge instead of growth, depends on validation for confidence. And because of this, they remain controlled by external circumstances. But the Stoic becomes internally powerful. And internal power changes everything. You stop fearing rejection. You stop fearing judgment. You stop fearing loneliness. You stop fearing criticism. Because your identity no longer depends on the opinions of unstable people. One of the most dangerous habits is overthinking what others think about you. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to think about you nearly as much as you imagine. And even if they do judge you, what changes? Nothing. Your mission remains the same. Your purpose remains the same. Your growth remains the same. Do not allow imaginary judgment to control real action. Many people never become who they were meant to be because they fear criticism. They fear looking foolish. They fear failure. They fear embarrassment. So they stay small to avoid judgment. But no matter what you do, someone will criticize you anyway. If you succeed, people envy you. If you fail, people mock you. If you speak, people judge you. If you stay silent, people misunderstand you. So stop living for approval that will never fully come. Live according to principles. This is why Stoicism values virtue above reputation. Reputation depends on others. Character depends on you. And character matters more. A disciplined person remains disciplined even when nobody is watching. A loyal person remains loyal even when betrayal is easier. A calm person remains calm even during chaos. That is strength. Not pretending to be strong online. Not acting tough in front of people. But maintaining inner control when life becomes difficult. And life will become difficult. You will lose people. You will experience disappointment. You will face unfairness. You will encounter betrayal. You will experience failure. Nobody escapes pain. But pain can either destroy you or train you. The Stoic uses suffering as fuel for wisdom. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" That single shift changes everything. Pain becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. Rejection teaches detachment. Failure teaches resilience. Loneliness teaches self-reliance. Criticism teaches emotional control. Hardship teaches strength. And eventually, the very things that once hurt you begin to sharpen you. This is why many strong people have painful histories. Their suffering built emotional endurance. People who never struggle often become mentally fragile. But people who learn to endure difficulty develop depth, patience, wisdom, and resilience. The Stoics did not seek comfort. They sought strength. Because comfort makes people soft. Difficulty reveals character. Now this does not mean you should become emotionless or isolated from humanity. It means you stop allowing emotions to dominate your decisions. When angry, stay calm. When insulted, stay composed. When rejected, stay confident. When betrayed, stay dignified. Your power grows every time you refuse emotional chaos. And one of the highest forms of power is self-control. Anyone can react emotionally. Anyone can scream. Anyone can insult back. Anyone can lose control. But remaining calm when provoked requires discipline. And calmness intimidates emotionally unstable people. Because they expect reactions. They expect emotional chaos. They expect you to lose control. When you remain calm, you take away their power. This is why silence can be more powerful than arguments. Emotionally reactive people expose themselves quickly. But disciplined people observe before speaking. The Stoics believed that words should be intentional, not impulsive. How many problems in life come from uncontrolled speech? Arguments. Broken relationships. Regret. Humiliation. Conflict. Many people destroy peace with temporary emotions. This is why Stoicism teaches restraint. Not weakness. Not passivity. But intelligent control. And control becomes easier when you realize something important. Most things are temporary. The insult is temporary. The embarrassment is temporary. The rejection is temporary. The failure is temporary. But many people turn temporary pain into permanent suffering because they keep reliving it mentally. Learn to let things pass. You do not need to carry every painful experience forever. Some people hold on to old wounds for decades. Old betrayals. Old insults. Old failures. And those memories continue poisoning their peace. But healing begins when you stop feeding emotional pain with constant attention. What you repeatedly focus on grows stronger. Focus on bitterness and bitterness grows. Focus on anger and anger grows. Focus on revenge and hatred grows. But focus on growth, discipline, peace, and purpose, and your mind transforms. The Stoics understood the importance of directing attention wisely. Your mind is like a garden. If you constantly plant negativity, resentment, jealousy, and fear, your inner world becomes toxic. But if you cultivate discipline, gratitude, wisdom, and resilience, your mind becomes peaceful and powerful. This is why your environment matters too. Some people constantly drain your energy. Some people thrive on drama. Some people manipulate emotions. Some people create chaos everywhere they go. Protect your peace. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, emotions, and energy. One of the most mature things you can do is quietly distance yourself from unnecessary negativity. You do not need to announce it. You do not need revenge. You do not need hatred. Just move differently. The Stoic avoids unnecessary conflict because peace is valuable. And another truth you must understand is this. People often treat you according to what they can gain from you. That is reality. Some people only respect power. Some only respect status. Some only respect usefulness. This is why placing your self-worth in the hands of people is dangerous. Because human loyalty is often unstable. But if your confidence comes from your values, discipline, and character, then external behavior loses power over you. This creates emotional stability. And emotional stability is rare today. Most people are overstimulated, emotionally reactive, impatient, distracted, addicted to attention, and unable to sit quietly with their own thoughts. But the Stoic becomes mentally sharp through reflection. Spend time alone. Observe your thoughts. Examine your reactions. Study your weaknesses honestly. Self-awareness creates transformation. You cannot master yourself if you refuse to understand yourself. Many people avoid silence because silence reveals unresolved emotions. But growth happens when you confront yourself honestly. Ask yourself, why do certain opinions hurt me? Why do I fear rejection? Why do I seek validation? Why do I react emotionally? Those answers reveal where inner work is needed. And inner work is more important than pretending to be strong. Some people look confident publicly but collapse privately. Some appear powerful online but are emotionally fragile in reality. True strength is internal. It is remaining centered when life becomes unstable. And one of the greatest forms of emotional freedom is detachment from outcomes. Do your best. Work hard. Love deeply. Speak honestly. Act with integrity. But do not emotionally collapse over outcomes you cannot fully control. You cannot force people to choose you. You cannot force opportunities to happen instantly. You cannot force loyalty. You cannot force understanding. Control effort. Release attachment. This mindset removes enormous suffering. Because suffering often comes from demanding certainty from an uncertain world. The Stoic accepts uncertainty. And acceptance creates peace. Now there is another important lesson. Stop expecting closure from everyone. Not everyone will apologize. Not everyone will explain themselves. Not everyone will admit wrongdoing. Some people will hurt you and move on like nothing happened. That is reality. And if your healing depends on their apology, you remain trapped. Sometimes closure comes from your own understanding, not from another person's explanation. Accept what happened. Learn from it. Grow from it. Move forward. Do not waste years waiting for accountability from people who lack self-awareness. Your peace is more important. And remember this. The strongest people are not those who never experience pain. The strongest people are those who experience pain without allowing it to poison their character. Do not let betrayal turn you cruel. Do not let rejection turn you insecure. Do not let hardship turn you bitter. Remain disciplined. Remain wise. Remain calm. That is Stoic strength. Because anyone can become destructive after suffering. But remaining balanced despite suffering requires greatness. And eventually you reach a level where life changes. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing rejection. You stop needing validation from everyone. Your mind becomes quieter. Your emotions become steadier. Your standards become higher. And people notice the difference. They notice your calmness. They notice your discipline. They notice your emotional control. Because emotional stability is rare in a world addicted to chaos. So if you truly want peace, if you truly want strength, if you truly want emotional freedom, master your mind. Because the greatest prison is emotional dependence on external things. And the greatest freedom is inner control. Remember this every day. Nobody can destroy your peace without your permission. Protect your mind. Guard your energy. Master your emotions. Control your